Marriage, or any partnership for that matter, is a give and a take.
So in this video, I'm going to go over a few different scenarios based on things that we see on the show and talk about what the real life implications or what the process for that would be like in real life. Let's start with a prison inmate who wants to attend a family member's wedding, like Johnny Zack. You may be asking yourself, is this something that could actually happen in real life, or is this, like the prosecutor said, a ludicrous idea? What is the actual legal landscape?
You'll be released for a total of 6 hours to attend the church service and party thereafter. During the entirety of the 6 hours, you will be escorted by U.S. Marshals. The cost of their presence, transportation, and the cost of metal detection screening equipment is to be borne by you at your own expense. You will consume no alcohol.
The Bureau of Prisons may release a prisoner from the place of his imprisonment for the purpose of 1. Visiting a relative who's dying, 2. Attending a funeral of a relative, 3. Obtaining medical treatment.
Mr. Sacramone, how are you today?
Isn't that for you to tell me?
Contacting a prospective employer, 5. Establishing or reestablishing family or community ties, or 6. Significant activity consistent with the public interest. There's a story out of New Orleans, Louisiana in 2017 where a former congressman who had been in prison for 5 years and was serving a 13-year sentence for bribery and corruption was able to get out of prison for one night to attend his daughter's wedding. On the other hand, in 2011, when the person alleged to be the acting boss of the Colombo crime family wanted to be let out of prison to go to his daughter's wedding, the judge denied that request. This typically occurs under specific conditions and is subject to approval by the authorities overseeing the inmate's incarceration. Inmates typically must meet certain criteria to be considered for temporary release, such as good behavior, being classified as low risk, and having a valid reason for the request.
Do you understand and agree to these conditions?
I do, Your Honor. And thank you.
Now, what if it's the other way around? What if, say, a prison inmate in New Jersey wanted to get married? An inmate who is 18 years or older may submit a request to marry or enter into a civil union outside of the correctional facility if the inmate is eligible for escorted or unescorted furlough and the correctional facility has a furlough program. So let's say Feach Lamanna, he gets sent back to prison, but say he'd met someone on the outside before he was sent back, and he and this person keep in touch. They decide they want to get married. Feach wants to leave prison to get married. So what Feach would have to do is fill out a written request to the administrator of the correctional facility, and it has to be at least 120 calendar days in advance of the proposed date of the wedding. So they want to get married on August 1st. Feach has to submit this form to the administrator of the correctional facility at least 120 calendar days ahead of August 1st. An inmate may submit a request to marry outside of the correctional facility, but there's no guarantee, and certainly given Feach's record, I don't think that he would be quite the ideal candidate for this.
Hello?
Miss Soprano, need Neiman returning.
Oh, hi. Great. Thank you. The reason I called, I gave your secretary the broad strokes.
Miss Soprano, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you short. As far as handling it, I'm afraid I have to recuse myself.
What do you mean? Why?
Actually, your husband had been in to see me for a consultation last year.
My husband hired you?
No, but based on a prior meeting, the Code of Professional Responsibility precludes me from representing you because of that consultation.
See, I don't understand this. Why is my husband so picky? He talked to 7 or 8 of the top divorce attorneys in New Jersey.
Well, you can probably figure that maneuver out for yourself.
Now let's look at another scenario. What if Tony was convicted, sent to prison for, let's just say, 15 years. And Carmela decides she wants to divorce him. He's in prison. How is that whole process going to work, logistically speaking? As a matter of fact, in New Jersey, one of the grounds for divorce is incarceration. In order to do this, state law requires a spouse to provide legal notice of the divorce by serving a copy of the complaint to their spouse. And prison officials must also be notified in the event that the court allows the appearance of the incarcerated spouse. What about a situation like Angie Bonpensero in Puss? Puss disappears. He never comes home. They know, but they don't know. They hope maybe he'll turn up. If. It's funny how Puss says this to Christopher in the pilot episode, and then it really ends up applying to him in his situation a little bit later on.
I can't leave her. Angie, that dog is not a substitute for human contact.
That French poodle is all I got left to sell.
And what if that afternoon at Meadows' graduation party in Funhouse, she says, all right, you know what? I'm really going through with it this time. But they can't find Puss. What are they going to do? Obviously, as we know, they'll never find him. Not intact and on land, anyway. So what happens then? In order to proceed with a divorce in New Jersey, when your spouse is missing, you have to demonstrate to the court that you exercise due diligence in attempting to locate the individual. When a court considers whether or not someone has exercised due diligence, examples of things that a court normally says a spouse must do includes contacting the spouse's last known employer, contacting the spouse's relatives, friends, through social media searches and elsewhere on the internet, post office search, etc., etc., etc.
I was away when all that shit went down with your brother. What the fuck happened? We don't like to talk about it.
We know that Tony, Sil, the other guys have the witness protection story. He's in witness protection. He skipped out. He left all of us. You know, I wonder what would happen here if the court would then go look into the matter separately, and what information the court would even be able to gather from that. Now, what would happen if, say, everything that happened on The Sopranos happened up to the end of season 5? Adriana's killed, she comes clean, they get rid of her. What if Christopher then decides later on that he wants to be done with it too? He calls the FBI, they put him in the program, the actual program, not the Richie Aprile witness protection program. And then Christopher meets someone new with his new life. What if this person wants to get married? In 1981, Henry Hill, under the name Martin Lewis, married a woman who had no idea that he was actually Henry Hill and that he'd been involved in all of the previous crimes. Apparently, Henry Hill married a Mormon beautician while in witness protection with his family, including his actual wife and kids. So, getting married as a person in witness protection program means lie. So, if someone's in the witness protection program, not Henry Hill or necessarily someone who's still married, but someone who's single, divorced, whatever, meets someone new, wants to get married. Individuals that are in the program like this are told to not reveal their prior identity to new spouses in case the relationship ever goes south or something else happens and that spouse or someone else that the spouse knows reveals the person's old identity out of spite. And it's funny, when I use Christopher as an example here, I also think about Christopher's marriage to Kelly Moltisanti. He wasn't in witness protection for that, but in a way, it's almost like everything that had happened up to that point, particularly with Adriana, had been erased. Even when Kelly tells him that she's pregnant and he goes on a rant about his ex who ran off and had someone else's kid.
I actually couldn't have kids and I wanted them so bad.
The one who ran out on you?
You can bet she's having some other asshole's kid, though, that fucking tramp.
And finally, a prison WTF moment on The Sopranos.
They will probably go through their entire lives not knowing that their father's sperm was smuggled out of jail to get Nancy pregnant.
It was the least I could do.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.